Okay, meeting will come to order. Let's see, we need to state time. What time do you have? 1:30. Okay. 1:35. The advisory committee meeting is meeting for cosmetology. Okay, I need to call the roll. Anthony Anderson. Claudia Avalos. Natalie Enderman.
Present.
Okay. Mary Lindsay.
Present.
Betty Neff.
Present.
Alicia Riviera.
Present.
Vanessa Robbins. Sam Webb.
Present.
Debbie Weiland. And Ron Robinson, present. Okay. That'll take care of that. Today is what, dear? 10th. That's taken care of. So do we have a quorum here? We do? We have our quorum, okay. All right, then our quorum is here. So, okay, the next thing we need to go to is, I guess I need to mention, okay. The next thing we need to move to is the approval of the minutes of the last meeting. So I'm going to give you a few minutes to look over that, if you would, please. And I would like to call for a motion on that after they have been read, if you would, please. Okay? We all had a chance to read over the
This is
minutes?
Sam Webb. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, a motion has been made by Board Member Sam Webb to approve the minutes,
I'm Mary Lindsay, and I'll second the motion.
and seconded by Board Member Mary Lindsay. So the minutes are approved as they are written, okay?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
this is Brad Bowman, General Counsel. I think we need an actual vote on you had a motion and a second, so we just need
Okay.
to vote on that.
Okay, I need a vote on the approval of the minutes, please. Okay, we need to call it. All in favor? They're all in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay. All right. All right, moving right along. Okay, I think we're going to move now to public comment. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right, public comment. All right, I have people here who are wanting to speak. Public comment, we limit our time to 3 minutes. We ask that you give us your name and state the place or the organization that you are representing. Anything else I need to add to that? You have 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And Ms. Clark, will you take care of the timing on that, please? Okay. I don't have these in any particular order, so I'll just take them as they're here. Is it Pot, Miss Pot, Pot, or Mr. Pot, P-O-T-T? Pot? Pot? Okay.
Not poof or.
Why don't you put this?
You get that a lot.
I would have recognized Aaron.
Erin, I know, it's my handwriting. Hi, I'm Erin Poff, and I'm a cosmetology instructor, and I part owner of Bella Beauty Colleges. We have 5 locations. I only wanted to comment on, as it relates to the reduction in hours, regarding students that have already dropped from school and have already accomplished or clocked 1,000 hours, but haven't met the 1,500 hours. Like, they're in that kind of range between 1,000 and 1,500. It's my understanding, if they have dropped and for whatever reason their hours are not released, they are their hours. I'm not arguing that. That the TDLR would not release those and allow them to examine unless they're released from the school. I'm not sure if I'm getting a lot of puzzling looks. So if you drop from any course, whatever it is, let's say business, there's usually fees associated. Even if there's a drop fee, then that's the only thing that's owed on the account, and the hours are not marked as released, yes or no. It's my understanding that that those should, I'm hoping the way, and this is all new language, so I'm just hoping that in that interpretation, that those individuals would still be directed to go back to the school to figure out whatever is owed to the school or whatever requirements are needed for those hours to be released. And I don't know if those hours are just transferable and all of a sudden, once those hours are released, are they eligible to examine, or not just the written exam, but practical and go forward with getting their license. Because I do get a lot of questions right now. I have had several students that have withdrawn asking that question, and I actually don't know the answer. I know, yes, you owe $250, or yes, you owe $3,000, whatever it is, and those hours are still on file or on record with the TDLR, but I don't know what happens beyond after this official change is made in the rules and the administrative rules. So I don't know if anybody else is thinking about that. That's definitely one of the questions that I had. They, for whatever reason, let's say they have 1,200 hours. I mean, they met the requirements to that point, possibly of the 1,500-hour requirement. So, although they have over 1,000 hours, I don't know that qualifies them to sit based on the curriculum that you're looking at today at approving. So, just making a comment for thought as all of this kind of rolls out. Does that make sense?
Yes, it
Okay.
does. Thank you so much, Erin. Okay, Rebecca Yandel.
Hi, my name is Rebecca Yandel, and I'm here to represent a new organization that has been formed. I'm with Fort Worth Beauty School, Sharon Gamlin being the acting president of this newly formed organization. I'm here as an executive board member. We have newly formed this organization for all cosmetology and barber profession. We are Allied Beauty and Barber Association of Texas. And you can find us on a Facebook page before the ABBATX. We have a tentative meeting for March 29th. So if you go to our Facebook page and if you sign up and like our page to get involved, we would appreciate it. And if you share with everybody and come to our meeting, and we just hope to see you there and hope that we can get this organization formed so we can go forward and having a new organization, for us to see what is going on and things that we can do in our profession for the cosmetologist and barber. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Laura Valdez. Ms. Valdez.
Hello.
Hello.
Good afternoon. I'm going to do rating, sorry, because I don't want to mess this up.
Ms.
Thank you for,
Valdez, who do you represent?
I am with Paul Mitchell School, Austin.
Okay.
Good afternoon. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my thoughts and opinions with you and for the time you have personally invested in to sit on this board. You are our voice, and I appreciate you taking the time to listen and ask that you please evaluate the information being shared prior to making recommendations to TDLR board. I'd like to start out by saying that my only intention is to protect the integrity of our industry and provide our students with the education needed to be successful long-term in the beauty industry, and to ensure that our students who have been caught up in the transition period are afforded the industry standards TDLR set when they enrolled in school. I already submitted some comments through the online channel that was made available, so thank you for that. While the proposed rules address While the proposed rules address how to handle students who enrolled in school starting January 2020 to the present, it leaves room for concern about all students enrolled prior to 2020. So I'm probably going to be along the same lines as Mrs. Puff was sharing a second ago. The biggest concern that should be understood is that prior to the new law, all school operating with TDLR approved 1,500-hour curriculums cannot guarantee that the new 1,000-hour requirement will be met by any student that was contracted prior to January 2020 when they hit 1,000 hours. It takes advanced planning and hours of preparation for schools to set curriculums to ensure students meet the TDLR requirements. Currently, hours of individual topics of study are not broken down when submitted to TDLR, leaving it to the schools to track this progress. Schools set graduation requirements to ensure that student completes all school and TDLR requirements by the date they graduate. Because hours are not broken down by individual topics when submitted, the only way a school can report that a student has met requirements is by issuing certificates of completion. I am recommending that a statement is included in the rules that any student who has contracted prior to January 2020 must complete 1,500 hours. Any drops prior to 2020 must complete remaining hours up to 1,500. These requirements must be met to be eligible for practical exam, that's my recommendation, and that schools should retain permit until the student has either dropped from the program or completed all graduation requirements. I'd also like to state that I am for TDLR allowing schools to offer programs over 1,000 hours, giving the student the option to choose what type of education they want. TDLR currently has the ability in SHEERS to put the recommended adjustments in place. It would simply have to adjust how it recognizes eligibility to take the practical exam. The changes would simply be two-check system that verifies that the student met a minimum of 1,000 hours and that the school has submitted them as completed. I also included on the handout that was given to you a proposed modification for 83.20 license requirements and the verbiage that could possibly use to change this law. Currently, it states 1,000 hours in a beauty culture school, and I recommend that you add the words from a 1,000-hour program or a contracted hours if from a certified program of longer duration. So still knowing that the state would have to certify our programs that are over 1,000 hours. Once again, I'd just like to say thank you for your time, and I hope that you will look at this recommendation. Thank you.
Okay, Kim Moyers.
Hey, no. I'm Kim Moyers, and I'm here representing Navarro College and Community College Cosmetology Educators of Texas. So I have 2 or 3 things real quick. I just kind of wanted to mention some of it is similar to what has already been mentioned here today. As far as if a student, say, finished 500 hours, and then that was a year ago, and they came back, and I enrolled them into a 1,000-hour program, they're only going to be required by SHEERS to do 1,000 hours. Right. So I don't really know if there's any way to keep from that, and I think it would probably be deterrent, and those students may never finish if they're not able to just go ahead and, in the school, kind of decide what do they need to do to get to the point of finishing a 1,000-hour curriculum so that they can go on. So, but with that, on 8320J2, where it talks about if you, when the student is enrolled, like they can transfer from the 1,500 hour to 1,000, but it says this rule expires December 1 of 2020. So I just want to get some clarification on that, on if it was a student 2 years ago that did 500 and now they're coming back to finish, is that going to expire those 500 hours? They're going to start over from the beginning? Or is that just saying current students that are enrolled in 1,500 hours going into the 1,000 hour? Is that what that expiration date is for? So I think we need a little more clarification on what that means. And then Another thing with the curriculum being very condensed, and especially like with the colleges and stuff, I think it would be better if we could recommend that students possibly could even begin testing at 800, because when you're putting it at 900 to the last end, it's just that last 100 hours is so fast that I think it would be better to at least allow, if even at 750, 800, that them to go ahead and get the written out of the way, and then now they're back and you're finishing up any other curriculum, getting them ready for the practical. So I would like for you to consider a 750 to 800 hour approval for them to do the written. And another question on the proposed rule is, it says that you can basically now enroll them in a 1,000-hour program. Is that really truly in effect right now after this meeting, or when is that gonna happen? And the only last request I would like that's a little different or comment is all license can be renewed online except a beauty school. And with with the community college, it's like a lot of POs and red tape. I mean, it's kind of a lengthy process. We just can't go write a check and send it. So wanting for you to consider allow the schools to be able to renew their license online, because it is a yearly thing, so it's kind of cumbersome for us to do that. And if we could do that online with a credit card, it would be way easier. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. This, since you've gotten married, I wasn't familiar with your last name. So, we go back a long time. Okay, Oscar, is it Perez?
Yes.
All right, Mr. Perez, how are you today?
Good.
Thank you for coming in.
Good afternoon. And I have given you a written presentation just in case I mess it up, and you have it there in writing. But first of all, I would just want
Excuse me,
to
Mr.
introduce
Perez.
myself. I
Could you
am,
tell us where you're from, please?
yes, I'm Oscar Perez. With my family, I have owned an accredited Paul Mitchell School here in Austin for over 15 years.
Okay, thank you.
I also, for your information, had the pleasure of serving on the Round Rock School Board for 15 years in a volunteer position, so I understand the amount of time that you all spend as volunteers representing us. So I want to say I appreciate that you sit there and do that time for us to represent the cosmetology industry to the TDLR board. Thank you. I also already submitted comments through the online channel that was made available. Thank you for that. I do want to bring to your attention another element that perhaps was overlooked or missed in the published proposed rules and communications that have occurred so far. And that is the impact of the change on accredited schools. The first item is the fact that the impact of the proposed change on accredited schools is perhaps not understood or been overlooked. An accredited school cannot start enrolling students in a modified 1,000-hour program without first getting program approval by the accrediting agency. In our case, the accrediting agency is the National Accrediting Commission of Career Arts and Sciences, NACAS for short. And in order to get approval, we need a certificate of approval or a letter from TDLR indicated that we are approved for the TDLR to teach the 1,000-hour program, and when that program is about to start. So that is needed in order to us to make an application to NACAS to continue our accreditation. Another important factor is that the Department of Education requires accreditation in order to be eligible for federal funding. So if we, for some reason, start enrolling students without getting approval, we could lose our federal funding. The students would lose their federal funding as well. So I just want to make sure that everybody understands that. These are items that have to happen in a specific order in order for us to not lose our accreditation and our certification with the Department of Education. We have an obligation to inform the Department of Education as soon as we're approved, and there's a time limit on that we have to do that. While we are working on our 1,000-hour program through the approval cycle, We also must be able to continue to enroll students in the current 1,500-hour program if we can't enroll in the new one. So the other item that I'm trying to address here is continuation of the current program that we have. Over the years, the feedback from our advisory committees that we hold once or twice yearly has been that they've been very pleased with the quality graduates with the 1,500-hour program. And recently, I've also heard that they're very disappointed about finding out that there's going to be 500 hours less. Most of the members of our advisory committees are independent salons that don't have the resources to continue to train new hires. They want new hires that'll come into their salon and start being productive immediately. And so our intention is to continue to offer that option to students for an extended advanced program. For submission to NACAS for continued accreditation, we will also need a letter from TDLR stating that the current 1,500-hour program continues to be approved since it meets the minimum standards of 1,000 hours. But I will need that in order to go through, once the TDLR decides now the new rule is 1,000 hours, once the commission approves all of that, then that makes, I have to, by law, by the rule of the accrediting agency and Department of Education, have to convert over to 1,000 hours. And if I want to offer a program that is more than the state requires, I have to get that approved as well. That should be a no-brainer because the current program exceeds the current requirements. And that's what I'm here to hopefully make you understand, and hopefully that I'll have the method to be able to continue the program and also offer the 1,000-hour program at the same time, so that the students have a choice of which program they want to go to.
Mr. Perez, I think that my understanding from the very beginning was that the law changed and we had to go to the 1,000 hours. By the way, this is Mary Lindsay speaking. And that when we started in one committee that I've been in, then we started looking at that. There was never a problem with us at our college, community college, having more than 1,000 hours. That would lead to, we do associate's degrees there, so I feel it with you. But I think what you're asking is that we need something written to say that before the
Yes,
funding. Is
I
that
will.
correct? Is
I
my
will
understanding
need
correct?
that. Like,
Okay.
there was an email, a communication to all
Okay.
the schools saying
Okay.
you can start enrolling immediately. I can't do that because if I do
I just
that,
wanted
I'll
to
lose my
clarify that
accreditation.
I never, I did not think that we could not offer more than 1,000
Yeah.
hours. but
You're under
the-
different rules if you're
Yes.
public schools and I'm a private for-profit school.
So it's more that you need the written clarification.
Yes,
Is that correct?
yes,
That's what it
yes.
sounds.
In order to continue my accreditation
That
and
makes
maintain that,
sense.
and I would really like to do that.
So would
So,
that be forthcoming from?
I've sat in one committee meeting so far, and then some of these things that we're talking about were discussed, but I have not heard anything else
Miss Mary
about meeting
Lindsay?
again, but I'm sure that we will.
I'm gonna pull you back
Thank
a
you.
little bit during public comment, because
Okay.
it's not.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
And I
Thank
just
you.
would also like to add, if I've still got some time, as far as the previous speakers and
I believe your time is
concerning.
up, sir.
Your time
Yes.
is up. I'm sorry, sir.
My time's up? Okay.
Time
thank
is
you.
up.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, though, for sharing your comments with us. Okay, we're going to move now into the staff reports this time. Oh, we have one more? Oh, okay. Charlotte Wooten? Ms. Wooten? Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, good evening, and good night.
Is it good afternoon? That figures.
Okay, well, my name is Charlotte Wooten. I am the owner of Center of Attraction Hair Gallery located in Duncanville, Texas. I am CE provider number 1859. I am the author of the 2019 petitions that were in circulation on last year in regards to the legislation. And I want to discuss some continuing education concerns that I have as a provider. I would like to see that the renewal period be extended to every 2 years versus 1 year. I'm a provider for multiple states, and they provide their renewal period every 2 years, and I just don't understand why it has to be done every year. I would like to see HIV/AIDS as a continuing education provider. I do a lot of HIV AIDS awareness education with our youth, and the statistics are high within the state of Texas, and I think that that should be an added addition to the continuing education as human trafficking is. So those are my concerns, and I just would like for you guys to take that into consideration. Okay.
I have a question. Excuse me. Alicia Rivera here. I just want to get some clarification that you're talking about the continuing education hours, correct?
That is
That you
correct.
would like
For
them to
license
go
renewal.
to 2 years instead of 1.
I would like for the renewal
Right.
for the provider, the CE provider, to go to 2 years,
Okay.
except for 1 year.
Okay, I just wanted to get clarification.
Okay, okay. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming in. Okay, any more? All right. Okay, we're going to now move on our agenda. We're going to move to reports, okay? Staff reports. Okay, Ms. Lopez.
Good afternoon, members.
Good afternoon.
Yvonne Lopez, Licensing Division Manager for this program. I'm going to start with our personnel updates. I currently have 3 vacant positions. We have just concluded a round of interviews, and I am hoping to be fully staffed by the end of the month, hopefully with start dates by March 1st. 2 of these positions had been vacant since September 15th. One of them was just vacated by one of my 25-year tenured staff, Carolyn Ramirez. She was with the Texas Cosmetology Commission for 10 years and then completed the remaining 15 years with TDLR. We wish her well in her endeavors and hope she gets to take many trips and spend lots of time with her grandbabies. Moving on to statistics, you'll see that I've provided you with statistics from September 1st through December 31st. And there's also a comparison to the FY 2019. You'll see that the populations have both increased from the end of 2019 to the first 4 months of the fiscal year 2020. Now, I'll take any questions.
Are there any questions?
No?
Any questions?
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, customer service, Jacqueline Rush.
Good afternoon, board members. We have provided the fiscal year 2019 and fiscal year 2020 numbers of emails and phone calls we receive for cosmetology. I've also got some staff updates for you. Since November, we have hired 9 new customer service representatives. 6 of them started this last Monday. We've had 8 customer service representatives and other staff members who've moved on to other divisions, retirement, and the private sector. And as of right now, we are still looking to fill 8 positions. I'll take any questions you might have.
Any questions? Questions? Okay, I guess not.
Thank you.
Very much, Jacqueline. Okay, Education and Examination Division, Rebecca. don't know why I hit that. Just had that urge.
I'm coming up as fast as I can. Good afternoon, Chair and Advisory Board members. My name is Rebecca Armas. I'm the Education and Examination Division. I'm your Education Liaison. I have a few updates for you today. As you well know, TDLR is growing by leaps and bounds, and so is our division. We are no longer the tiny little group anymore. Our family has grown, and we've kind of branched out into sections. So my section is Outreach, Audits, and Policy, and Michael Strawn is our manager, and we'll have a lead under that position coming up. And then we also have under the second manager, which is Angela Schmidt, who's also back there. Everybody say hello. We have Health, Transportation, and Safety, and Occupational and Technical Services. And those folks will focus more on the processes, the day-to-day processes of the applications, and making sure that, you know, everything's being processed in a timely manner. Our Outreach, Audits, and Policy, we're going to focus on rules and, you know, things to make policies go better, rules, you know, if we have ways to look at rules with our work groups, and, you know, we're going to be the ones that are going to be driving that. And of course, our CE audits that are being done for every single CE group that's under our purview in our division. So just a few, you know, just a little few growth in our family that you'll start seeing more and more of us around. Not just me, you'll start to see some other folks represented in some of our outreach. Another thing that I'm going to share with you is HB 2847. Right now we have a bill implementation team that is currently working on putting all of the different legislative pieces into motion. We are still in its infancy stage. We're working on it. We're listening to everyone. We ask everyone to be sure that you are subscribed to our email updates. We're going to create FAQs to help clarify things. This is just things that we are working on to make this transition as painless as possible. We understand that, you know, there's a lot of unknowns, but we are working on it as a group. You know, it takes all bits and pieces from all the different divisions. We're going to come together and we're going to do the best we can for each and every one of you. And lastly, I've got some statistics, and I wanted to show y'all from last quarter to this quarter, we've jumped up a hair, but any place going up is a good thing, I think. We've gone up a point in the written and in practical for operator. We've also gone up a little bit on manicurist and looks like in esthetician, so we're headed up in the right direction for all of the examinations. And I'm here to answer any questions that anybody may have.
Rebecca, this is Sam Webb.
Mhm.
Do you see a reason for the better pass rates?
They're reading.
They're reading more?
They're reading more. I think
Okay.
they're taking more advantage of when we go out and do our open houses, we stress to the educators that everything that comes, when we develop our examination, are referenced to My Lady and Pivot Point. Those are right. We have to have page numbers, and everything comes out of there. It's not just something that's created out of thin air. So these students are they're taking initiative to read their books and not memorize any practice questions, because those aren't going to be on the examination. We're going to develop them from the text. And I think that they're just reading more. They're becoming a little more engaged. I was at a conference, and these educators were brainstorming on how they get their students involved in just passing the animal that is the written examination, and the collaboration is amazing. Everybody came out of there with something else that, oh, well, you know what, I didn't think about that. So I think it's a little more collaboration within the industries, that these educators are relying on each other and leaning on each other, and it's showing in the results of the examination.
Okay. And is there a reason the practice questions are not on the test, if they're practice questions?
The security of the examination. This is an assessment of minimally competent candidates, whether they're safe and sanitary. And if they just memorized, that's not what this examination does. It's an assessment of safety and sanitation.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Just a comment, I noticed also that the instructors program went up a little bit too, if I'm reading this correctly.
Mhm. We're getting there.
Any questions? Questions, Becky? Questions? Okay.
Thank you. You want to hit the gavel again?
Good evening. Okay, Enforcement Division, Victoria, is that
Mesa?
Mesa?
Yeah, Mesa, Arizona.
M-E-C-A, Mesa. Okay,
Thank you.
Victoria.
That's good, yeah. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Advisory Board members. My name is Victoria Mesa, and I'm here to, I'm a prosecutor with the Enforcement Division, and I'll present Enforcement's report to you today. First, I did want to note that our team has grown and changed a bit since the last time we met. We now have consumer complaint cases being handled by prosecutors Chris Funderburg, Rebecca Burkholter, myself, and Morgan Cumming, who was recently promoted to our, that team. We have inspection cases that are being handled by prosecutor Amanda Barrera, and we have two new prosecutors, Natalie Olvera and Arusa Nizami, who started with the department January 15th of this year. And I'd like to touch now on several enforcement closed cases, as I believe following their path to resolution will best illustrate enforcement's goals with the cosmetology profession. Then I'll discuss several statistics derived from the regulatory actions to try to provide you with a general overview of enforcement's recent activities. I'd like to start with Crystal Gail Nahn, doing business as Star Nails 21. On September 2nd of 2019, an agreed order was signed that finalized a settlement agreement between the department and Star Nails 21. As part of this negotiated settlement, owner Crystal Gail Nahn accepted liability for failing to properly clean, disinfect, and sterilize metal implements and electric drill bits, failing to properly maintain cleaning records for Whirlpool foot spas. This was Ms. Nahn's second violation of the cosmetology law rules, and the order imposed a penalty of $3,450. To date, $2,000 has been paid by Ms. Nahn, and she is in compliance with her payment plan. Moving on, we have LaTanya Wilkerson, doing business as Lashed by LaTanya. On October 21st, 2019, the executive director granted the department's motion for default against Ms. LaTanya Wilkerson for operating a beauty salon or specialty shop without a license. This was Ms. Wilkerson's second violation. Specifically on February 3rd of 2016, in the matter of LaTanya Wilkerson, the executive director issued a default order assessing the respondent an administrative penalty of $1,000 for performing or attempting to perform acts of cosmetology without a license. Ms. Wilkerson has an outstanding balance of $800 remaining of that first administrative penalty. Due to failure to comply with the previous order, this second violation also carries a penalty of revocation of her cosmetology eyelash extension operator license. Therefore, the order imposed a penalty amount of $1,750 and revocation of her license. To date, no money has been paid by Ms. Wilkerson. And next we have Danny Bowie and Kathy Lee, doing business as Davi Nails. On December 18, 2019, an agreed order was signed by the executive director that finalized a settlement agreement between the department and Davi Nails. As part of this negotiated settlement, owners Danny Bowie and Kathy Lee accepted responsibility for failing to properly clean and disinfect portable Whirlpool jets, failing to discard single-use buffer blocks after use on a client, reusing these single-use items on other customers, and failure to clean and disinfect Whirlpool foot spa chairs on the premises. Mr. Bowie and Ms. Lee agreed to pay an administrative penalty of $3,750. To date, $1,875 has been paid by the respondents, and they are still making payments towards compliance with this order. Another case is Hawaiian Nail Bar LLC, doing business as Hawaiian Nail Bar Addison LLC. On December 18th of 2019, the executive director granted the department's motion for default against Hawaiian Nail Bar LLC for failure to properly clean and disinfect Whirlpool foot spas, failure to follow the proper procedure when using a spa liner on a Whirlpool foot spa, and failure to clean, disinfect, and sterilize metal manicure implements. The order imposed a penalty amount of $4,750. To date, no money has been paid by the respondent. And lastly, we have the case against Miguel Armando Chavez. On July 8, 2019, Mr. Chavez submitted his cosmetology operator license renewal application to the department. However, in January of 2019, Mr. Chavez was imprisoned as a result of his conviction for the felony offense of unauthorized use of a vehicle. A provision in the Occupations Code automatically revokes an occupational license when the licensee is imprisoned for a felony, as Mr. Chavez was. The department notified Mr. Chavez that his license has been revoked by operation of law on the day he entered prison, and that he will be eligible to reapply or to apply for a new license once he is no longer imprisoned. So those are our cases. Now I'd like to move on to statistics. Thus far, through November of fiscal year 2020 for the cosmetology program, the department opened 424 cases, and there have been 407 cases resolved and 142 final orders. The department has assessed $166,035 in administrative penalties and collected $95,695. The department as a whole, all of TDLR, has opened 2,655 cases and resolved 2,570 cases. That has resulted in 470 final orders agency-wide, and the department has assessed $874,531 in administrative penalties and collected $403,443. And I'm available for questions on any of the material I've presented.
Don't have any. So, I do.
Okay.
So after they have a second violation, they can continue to do business?
It depends on how they handle it. If they're addressing that first violation and they're paying their penalties and they come into an agreed order with the prosecutor, then it is possible to continue. If they have ignored that first order and they get a second violation, then things don't generally go that way. So it's a case-by-case basis, and as prosecutors, we like to work with people. Again, our mission is compliance. We want people to be in compliance and follow the rules, and we also want to continue to encourage businesses to stay open. So we're balancing. So you saw two cases that had two violations. In one of them, the business is trying to comply, and they're taking care of their penalties. And in that case, they're continuing their business. In the other one, it was defaults where they were ignoring the department and they weren't taking care of things and they were continuing to violate and continuing to ignore. So in that case, we revoke. Yeah. So it depends on how the business owners are handling those violations when they occur. Are they addressing them? Are they accepting responsibility, or are they not?
Okay, that's a very good explanation.
Any other
Thank you very
questions?
much. Any questions? Okay. All right, thank you so much. Let's see. All right. Oh, my goodness. Miss Elizabeth Perez, Program Management Division. Miss Perez, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Robinson. How are you? Chairman Robinson. I'm Elizabeth Bettis, and I'll be giving the report for the Regulatory Program Management Division. Under the cosmetology program activities and projects, staff are currently engaged in the Sunset Commission review process. RPM has met with Sunset staff and provided program statistics, history, and subject matter expertise. Staff also assists other divisions with regulatory program management related emails and questions that require subject matter expertise review and input. Excuse me. Staff has been working with bill implementation teams to incorporate recent legislation into program rules, specifically HB 2847. Staff participated in the exam review committee in Austin December 4th through the 6th, 2019. And the Health and Safety Work Group has not met to review the aesthetic scope as requested during the last advisory board. We are still in the process of gathering data and will schedule once we have enough information for the group to review and discuss. Under public and industry outreach, Jerry Gonzalez attended TIVA in Dallas on January 21st to the 23rd of this year, and staff will be attending the Image Expo in Houston, May 3rd and 4th, 2020. Personnel updates, Charlotte Melder is the new director of RPM, and I think executive is going to go a little further into that. And Amanda Smith has joined the MHP RPM group as an executive assistant. Amanda has many years of regulatory experience, and we're happy to have her on our team. Cosmetology and barber now fall under the medical and health professions section, and these are the activities and projects. MHP staff are busy during the during the last legislative session. Staff reviewed over 50 bills, analyzed and the impact of the proposed legislation, and served on cost estimate teams for bills that relate to the medical and health profession programs. Staff are currently leading bill implementation teams to implement the requirements of the new laws. Staff has been involved in the training sessions with the new anti-human trafficking team, and staff will begin helping licensing process applications February 2020, this month. Any questions?
Been a busy group.
Yeah, we are. Tired, busy crew.
So, and do you know about when maybe the health and safety group will be meeting?
Probably, I'm going to say within the next maybe month or two, once we get all the information that we need. We still have to research some items.
Questions?
Sam Webb, I'd just like to say I'm very anxious for that work group to meet. So I don't know if I can help gather information or anything y'all are looking at. I'd be happy to be a resource for that.
Thank you. We will. I'm sure.
Okay. Betty, anything?
That it?
Okay.
Thank you.
Mary? Okay, well, I guess you're off.
Good.
Good to see you, Elizabeth.
Good to see you too.
Okay. Field inspections, one. Oh, I just take this away from me.
I was trying to get here before you
It's
hit
kind
the
of like
gavel.
chips, I guess.
Good afternoon. My name is Juan Munoz. I'm a regional manager with Field Inspections, and I'm here to give you a brief on field inspections. On front of you, first thing you'll see are all the most common violations during our inspections. We traditionally list the top 10. And as you can see, they vary between documentation to sanitation to posting of licenses and pictures and such. The next document will show you the top 8 violations for the school inspections that we have. Again, most of those will be, usually some kind of documentation or maybe some sanitary issues. Some division projects we've been working on. We have Kem Tu Tran on our East Region Manager. She continues working with the Vietnamese TV in Houston and Dallas. December's episodes covered the most common violations found during barber and cosmetology inspections and the cleaning records cited in 16 Texas Admin Code 83108. Personnel updates. We'd like to congratulate Julianne Crocker. She accepted a position as a management analyst with the Office of Innovation and Project Management. That was effective on November 15th, so we're definitely going to miss her. But at the same time, we welcome Colleen Cloudy as the new lead facilitator, who just started last week, so she's taking her place, so we're excited to have her. Next, you'll see our statistics, and you have a comparison from 2019 to 2020 fiscal years, and currently we're kind of on track as we were the year prior, both for cosmetology salons, establishments, and the mini shops. If you go to the next page, what you'll find is the same graph, except it's just our schools. And these are the compared numbers of inspections from the year prior at the same time, this last year. And pending any of your questions, that's all I have.
Questions? Okay, we're a very compliant group today, aren't we? Okay, Juan, thank you
Thank you, sir.
so much.
Have a good day.
That's about it. Okay. We're now going to talk to the Executive Office, Mr. David Gonzalez.
Chairman Robinson, board members, this is David Gonzalez. I'm the Deputy Executive Director, one of 3 here at TDLR. There's been a trend that you've seen in all the reports, personnel updates. Our agency has grown, mostly in responsibilities. We're actually been provided some staff as well. Some of the staff are moving around, a little bit of musical chairs, some promotions. Some of them are new vacancies for new responsibilities that we have with a motorcycles program and a motor fuels program. We are doing our best to keep the level of service which y'all have become used to. So we appreciate the patience, definitely. We have some hardworking staff. They work really hard. The personal updates I think are most significant for you is y'all are used to seeing Mr. Brian Francis either here or alongside me. He is very busy. He loves this part, his role here, and I'm going to do my best to channel his energy and his personality the best I can. But I'm just really happy that he's able to share some of the responsibilities because we've been working him really hard for quite a few years. He's got some broad shoulders, but in order to do that, he's got to share some of the load. So I'm going to be Deputy Executive Director, probably in charge of a lot of the advisory board interactions. Christina Kaiser, who used to be the Enforcement Division Director, also received a promotion. When Carla James retired, I think y'all got that announcement at the last meeting, she retired in November. She got to get replaced by 2 people. She was doing such a wonderful job and was so busy, Brian, in his infinite wisdom, decided he needed 2 people to try to help handle the load. We also have Mr. Mike Addis-Mendez, who used to be the chair of our commission. He was already on board as a deputy. So we have 3 deputy executive directors trying to shoulder the load that Ms. Carla James and Brian Francis have been doing for years. Hopefully we can keep up with the good work. We also had, as they mentioned before, Charlotte Melder moved up from her role as a section manager to be the RPM division director, and Mr. Ron Foster, who was one of our lead prosecuting attorneys, he was promoted to be enforcement division director. So lots of musical chairs. What this means for you guys, it means that y'all should expect the same things from TDR you always have, but there's going to be new faces, new people giving reports, and when y'all get the opportunity, ask questions. Give them a little bit of a challenge so that they get used to their jobs, because you do see some new faces up here. I've actually been here 23 years, so I preceded Mr. Francis. We decided he was a keeper, and so he's been around for a few years as well, but we're going to be trying to do the same work you've always been used to, and you're just going to see some new faces making the presentations on it. Next on the agenda is sunset review process. This is a very important time for any state agency. Texas has a sunset process that basically has every agency and every program going under review, and if it doesn't get continued, it goes away. This is an important process for constructive criticism, for impact. The sunset staff, which is appointed by the Sunset Commission, it's made up of legislators from the Senate and from the House, they actually get inside to our inner workings. They show up at meetings. In fact, we've had over 50 meetings. They'll contact the public. They're actually here present at this meeting today. We got some shout outs to Ms. Gandy and also to Mr. Fajardo for being here today. We welcome their input. These reports are what have made us a better agency, I believe. Back when we had our last one, which was about 15 to 17 years ago, I'm trying to remember, we had some good input from that sunset, and we took those ideas and we were able to incorporate all the things that they suggested to us. Legislative action can come out of sunset recommendations. They can also have managerial decisions or managerial suggestions that can take effect immediately as soon as they share them with us. Our report is most likely going to be coming out in May, and then afterwards there will be a public hearing. If y'all really want to participate in this public process, y'all need to make y'all's thoughts known. It's very similar to our strategic planning sessions that we go through every 2 years, but this is really serious. This could be legislative impact. This could be whether or not the agency continues or not. If people are weighing whether or not a program is pulling its weight and doing what it's supposed to or accomplishing what it's supposed to, this is where the voices need to be heard. So you can go to sunset.texas.gov in order to give your input. It is very important to take advantage of the process. Next on, we have strategic planning, which is near and dear to Mr. Francis's heart. The way we do it is we go around to different cities, gather input from the people, but we also do it from our website. We're asking questions such as, what do we do well? What can we do better? What's the best way to get our job done is what we want to hear. But if you were king or queen for a day, what things would you change? We take this to the public, and we're asking for all their input. Whenever we develop our plans for the legislative session, we take that input and actually formulate it into proposals that sometimes get made into legislative action as well. So the input that we received during strategic planning is going to be starting in the March, April. Y'all need to be signed on to our listserv if you want to hear about where we're going to be visiting next. We haven't decided on the cities yet, but we're thinking about it right now. Again, if you can't show up in person, we are always going to be welcoming your input via our website, and all of those comments will be taken into consideration. You'll be able to see all the input that's provided and maybe even build on each other's ideas. One of the biggest ideas that we have during these sessions is that we have brainstorming, and that no idea is crazy, no ideas should be put out. It's basically building on each other's ideas so we get the best input and are able to put those ideas out there and share them with the rest of the public. So that's going to be coming up in March, April, and continue through probably till beginning May before we get our strategic planning report out. Communication outreach and statistics for cosmetology. This is y'all's webpage, how effective it is. These are statistics that we have been gathering to make sure that we're doing a good job putting information out there. We do take pride in putting the information out there. So over the past 6 months, the cosmetology website has had 590,481 views. That's a lot of people going to y'all's webpage, an average of 3,192 per day. We're hoping that most people are getting their information from the webpage, and it's not taking as much time to call in or send in emails, so we need to know which pages are being visited and what information is most valuable to the public. 30% of the visitors access the site from a desktop computer, 66% from a smartphone, and 4% from a tablet. The top reasons for visiting the site included renewing your cosmetology license, exam information, transferring the cosmetology license from another state or country, cosmetology administrative rules, and then frequently asked questions. This is actually a pretty good top 5. This is what we would hope, is those are the ones that are getting the most visits. And as we find out more information, as we keep data on this stuff, if we need to change or update our FAQs, that's what we choose to do, and that's what our staff has been presenting. Lastly on the agenda, we have introduction of the anti-trafficking unit. So TDLR is in a unique position. As regulators, we get to see things during inspections and during enforcement activities that sometimes local law enforcement can't see. We have some authority. And Mr. Francis decided we needed to take a little bit of a step out there. He gave us one position, this is a couple years ago, one position, shared it with disaster response responsibilities that we were having due to Harvey, half-time working on anti-human trafficking efforts, and that individual was Jennifer Harless. She went out there and did some training. She actually went to make contacts with law enforcement to see how we could serve in a larger capacity in regards to anti-human trafficking efforts, whether it's labor or sex trafficking. Those efforts have resulted in the legislature saying, hey, I think y'all have something going on there. It's a huge problem. Human trafficking is a huge problem in Texas. We're going to give you more resources, more responsibility as well, to follow up on these anti-human trafficking efforts. So we've been provided staff. I'm going to name their names. They may not be here in the room, but I want to make sure that they're recognized. Ms. Ray Carswell, Brian Cottle, Gloria Newton, Alex Ortiz, Jordan Strain, Chuck Winkler, Jennifer Ignacio, and one more position to be named later. Those are the resources that have been provided to us. That's how serious the legislature is taking this. These individuals are going to be tasked with looking at illicit massage parlors. That's going to be a main task, but also for labor trafficking that can affect the cosmetology and barber industries, actually many of the industries related to construction as well. They have to coordinate with our enforcement division, with our RPM division, field inspections, and local law enforcement to make these things work. So we're looking forward to what they're going to be able to provide, and I think you're going to see some benefits from the knowledge that your industry has and sharing that knowledge and making sure to deter human trafficking in Texas. I think there's going to be some benefit from the work that we do. The last agenda item was a bit premature. I think we're going to save that one for a later date. And so that ends the executive office report. If there's any questions for me, I'll be glad to answer them.
Wow.
A lot of information in a short period.
No, I just, just, it's unbelievable that how all y'all really have going on right now. So do y'all have any questions? Yes, Sam?
It's Sam Webb. David, you mentioned the strategic plan. Does this mean TLR will be presenting legislative changes to the legislature?
David Gonzalez, TDLR. No, so during our strategic plan, we go around the state actually asking the questions. What do we do well? What can we do better? And if you were king or queen for a day, we do this every 2 years in between legislative sessions. That's not what we do as part of our implementation on any bills or any legislative changes. But as a result of the strategic planning that we do, the feedback that we get from our public, if they come up with ideas saying, hey, I wish we had thought about that, we'll actually put it on a list. And if invited for testimony or as a resource witness, we can share with legislators, these are the things that our public are telling us that they need, that they wish they had, and we can share those ideas. So that's the information that we gather during the strategic planning, is showing them what we do, asking the questions, can we do things better, and if you were king or queen for a day, what would you have changed?
Thanks.
No problem, Mr. Webb.
Anything else? I guess not. Okay, at this time, I would like to have a break. And do I get to hit the gavel? Okay, about 5 minutes. Let's take about a 5-minute break, okay? Okay, I believe now we're going to hear from our in-house solicitor, Colleen. Discussion and possible, okay? Shall we begin?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Advisory Board members, Presiding Officer Robinson, Colleen Tran, Assistant General Counsel. I have Rebecca Armas and Marianella with me, just in case. And they're my safety right now. I feel better. We're going to go through Agenda Item F about the rules that were proposed. They were proposed in January 3rd. They closed on February 3rd, and we received about 133 comments. You guys have already received the comments that have been redacted. And what we're going to go through today are a summary of those. So that what I've done is I've taken them and I've grouped them together by like comments. Anything that was a little bit of an outlier, you'll see individually pulled out. But for the most part, for example, like you'll see in the first one, there were 47 commenters who were against the hours change. And then I'll go through the department response. For those that are repeated, I won't read them over again. I'll just let you know that the department response is going to be similar to what you've already seen. So, and feel free to stop me.
Colleen?
Yes, sir.
This is Brian Francis. Could you get a little bit closer to the mic? Thank you.
Sorry. So for our first section, we had 47 commenters who were against the reduction in hours from 1,500 to 1,000. The proposed response is the department rules implement House Bill 2847 from the 86th Texas Legislature regular session, which lowers the number of hours required to obtain a cosmetology operator license from 1,500 to 1,000. The changes made by House Bill 2847 apply only to students applying for a cosmetology operator license on or after September 1, 2020, and therefore no changes have been made to the rules in response to this comment. You had 19 commenters who were in favor of the reduction in hours from 1,500 to 1,000, and you'll see that the proposed department response is exactly the same.
Can I ask a question, Colleen? Natalie Enderman here. When you were talking about the department response, is that a response that is just visual for everyone to see, or is that an electronic response?
It's only in front of you right now,
Okay.
and that's what we're working on, because then it will become something that it goes before the commission, and then every comment has to have a response from the department. So it's us working together to have something that eventually will be public. But this is just for the advisory board at this time.
Okay, thank you.
We have 14 commenters who asked specific questions regarding how the reduction in hours will affect them personally. Those comments had very issue-specific criteria in them, and they were about a proposed rule. So there aren't any changes that are going to happen in response to those very specific comments, but they've been referred to the appropriate division for review. 9 commenters had issue-specific questions regarding transition between the 1,500 to 1,000. And so the commenters with those specific issues were mostly schools, and so those 9 comments have been referred to the appropriate division, E&E, for response. Again, they weren't about the proposed rules themselves, so no changes were made there as well. 9 commenters submitted suggestions regarding the curriculum standards and suggested more hours be devoted to hair instead of nails. The proposed rules implement House Bill 2847, 86th Legislature, regular session, which lowers the number of hours required to obtain a cosmetology operator license from 1,500 to 1,000. The change applies to a cosmetology operator on or after September 1. The Advisory Board on Cosmetology met on November 18th, 2019 to discuss the proposed curriculum standards. Advisory Board members considered several recommendations, as you'll remember, and discussed the need to ensure that operator licenses are properly trained on hair, nail, and skin, because the license allows them to practice and perform all cosmetology services. So no change has been made to the proposed rules in response to that comment. One commenter wanted to know the proposed curriculum standards. So as you see in my response, I lay out the standards for that commenter. 3 commenters would like to know what has been removed from the curriculum because of the reduction in hours. And the response is that there hasn't been any change to what is in the curriculum, only the hours dedicated to each subject. So there's no change in response to that comment. 2 commenters would like to see the curriculum changed or updated. Those changes, there are currently no changes to the curriculum standards that are being required to taught, only the adjustments into the hours. We've referred that comment onto the appropriate division, which is E&E, for appropriate review, and no changes were made in response to that comment. One commenter would like to see curriculum updated and apprenticeships for salons. Those changes for the curriculum are that are required by curriculum are only adjustments in the hours and not what's actually being taught. And our apprenticeships are beyond the scope of the proposed rules. However, this comment has been referred to E&E for review, and no changes were made in response to this comment. One commenter is against the reduction in hours and would like to see changes made to the license so that it can cover multiple occupations, and the commenter expressed frustration with the agency overall. The comment regarding licensure, or the comment regarding hours, is because of a legislative change. You've heard me read that portion before. And the comment regarding the licensure and agency operations is beyond the scope of the rulemaking, so there will be no changes as a result of that comment. One commenter would like to have a structure for the curriculum and allow each school to decide the hours. The curriculum standards are to ensure that all cosmetology students receive minimum instruction in hair, nail, and skin to ensure a minimum competency. The proposed curriculum provide less prescriptive curriculum standards and allow schools more flexibility to determine what should be taught. And so therefore no changes have been made in response to this comment. One commenter would like to see corporate beauty schools be required to have a licensed cosmetology professional or professionals as directors. That comment is beyond the scope of the proposed rules, and so therefore no changes were made in response to that comment. One commenter would like for students to be able to participate in paid internships. The comment regarding paid internships is beyond the scope of the proposed rulemaking. It's been referred to the appropriate division for review, and no changes were made in response to the internship comment. One commenter feels that the reduction in hours will allow medical spa industry to, and I'll quote, consume the esthetician services and result in new regulation. The comment regarding the medical spa industry and new regulation are beyond the scope of this rulemaking, and so therefore there's no changes to the proposed rules in response to this comment. Two commenters would like to know if there has been any change to the esthetician license requirements. And there has not been any change to the hours for obtaining an esthetician license in these rules, so no changes have been made to the rules as a result of this comment. One commenter would like to know if there are any changes to the manicurist esthetician license requirements, and there have not been any reduction in the number of hours required to obtain a manicurist esthetician license. And so therefore there were no changes made in response to that comment. Two commenters would like to know more information about, I'm going to mess this up, hyaluron hyaluronic acid. The comment regarding hyaluron hyaluronic acid is beyond the scope of the proposed rulemaking, and so therefore no change. Did I say it wrong?
Hyaluronic.
Hyaluronic.
Although some people say I say it wrong.
Oh,
Say it
okay. Well, you can't teach me to say it wrong then.
You're saying it the right way. Hyaluronic.
No changes have been made to the proposed rules in response to these comments. One commenter would like to know if they can get their instructor license for 100 hours because they have 1,500 hours. The commenter raises an issue-specific question. However, there's been no change to the requirements for obtaining an instructor license. Therefore, no changes have been made to the proposed rules in response to this comment. One commenter would like to know how to obtain an accommodation for their daughter. That comment has been referred to the appropriate division to help that particular mother, and so therefore there's no change recommended in response to that comment. One commenter would like to obtain their license to do hair only. The comment raises an issue-specific question, and it has been referred to the appropriate division for review, but there's no changes to the proposed rules in response to that comment. Two commenters would like a refund for their school tuition now that the hours have been reduced. The comments regarding refund is beyond the scope of the proposed rules, and no changes have been made in response to that comment. Mr. Robinson, are you stopping? Oh, no, okay.
No.
Okay.
No, I was just,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Okay.
Three commenters would like to know how to renew their license. Those comments have been referred to the appropriate division, and therefore there are no changes to proposed rules in response to that comment, those comments. Two commenters submitted name changes for their licenses. Those have also been referred to the appropriate division, and therefore no changes have been made to the rules in response to that comment. One would like to note that their business license was sold or canceled. That comment has also been referred to the appropriate division, and therefore no changes to the proposed rules as a result of that comment. One commenter wanted to order their rules and regulation book, and that comment has been referred on, and therefore no changes to the proposed rules in response to that comment. One commenter had questions regarding remote services and wanted to know if the law was modeled after the laws or rules of another state. The department is unaware of any other state that has similar laws or rules for remote services. However, there is no changes were made to our remote service rules in response to that comment. One commenter wanted a copy of the proposed rules, and those were provided to that commenter. No changes have been made in response to those, in response to that comment. One commenter submitted an email with their name and the name of their salon, and that was it. So that we didn't make any changes to the rules in response to that comment. One commenter asked a specific question regarding the reduction in hours, how that will affect them, and they wanted to express their opinion that they were in favor of the reduction in hours, and you will see the same answer there that we've seen before, but that one was also referred on to the division for review. One commenter would like to know how the students will be affected by the reduction and how the examination will change. And the comment raises an issue-specific question, which has been referred on for division review. But however, there are no changes expected to the examination as a result of the proposed rules. So no changes have been made to the rules as a result of this comment. One commenter was against the reduction in hours from 1,500 to 1,000 and believes there should be apprenticeships prior to graduation. The rule changes because of the legislative changes, and therefore you see the same answer there. Apprenticeships are beyond the scope of this proposed rulemaking. It's been referred to the appropriate division for review, and there are no changes in response to this comment. We did receive one late comment, and I hope that it was in your packet. The commenter was in favor of the reduction, and therefore you see the same response in there.
Okay.
Questions or concerns?
Is there any discussion, any questions? Any discussion or questions? Sam?
It's Sam Webb. That hyaluronic was misspelled. That was part of the confusion in this packet.
That's,
So,
I quoted.
yeah,
That's why.
I just want to clear that up.
Okay.
I guess, if I may, my concern is that this is going to lead to another law change in a short amount of time. And what we do here now, especially with the schools trying to be in compliance with accreditation, I don't really have a great answer, but I am concerned that there may be another law change coming with the kind of inequity in what's happened here, and we might be back to the drawing board with having to get new curriculums approved. So I would just say to think about that.
Anything else? Okay. Are you needing a motion?
A motion in order to recommend that the proposed rules be presented to the commission for approval.
Can I make one more comment?
Sure.
Sam Webb again. 130-something comments with no correct were received.
About 133.
Some most relevant. Were there any of those comments almost made a change? Because I see where everything was like no change, no change, no change. I don't know that, except for the people who don't want the 1,500 hours, which is a law change. Is there anything that was almost considered to, well, let's change this because of it?
For the most part, the ones that were on rule were either the 1,500 for or against, and so
Yeah, it seemed that way.
Yeah, and so wasn't a lot of room to budge there.
I have one more procedural question. Because there are 6 of us here, is it a majority of the quorum, or is it a majority of the board that has to vote in favor?
Of those here today.
Just here today, okay.
Okay. Once again, so you're needing a motion, right?
A motion and a second and a vote for the
So
commission.
can I get a motion? Okay. Does anyone want to make a motion to accept this? Any discussion? Okay.
Just Sam Webb, I'll make one more discussion. I still think that there's not enough aesthetics or nail in here for comparable licenses for a single aesthetics or a single nail license. I do understand, I think it needs to go forward. We need to start putting these things into place. So I will be in favor of it, but that is still a concern of mine.
Was that a motion, Mr. Webb?
Yes, it was not.
Oh, darn it. It was close.
I'm asking for a motion. Does anyone, board member, want to make a motion to accept these rules?
I motion to accept these rules.
Okay.
This is Shelley Neff.
Thank you, Ms. Neff.
Okay, and motion has been made to accept the rules here. All of those in favor, say
You'll need
aye.
a second.
Second.
You'll need a second.
This is
Somebody-
Mary Lindsay, and I'll make a second.
I shouldn't even have showed up today. I've gone crazy. Okay, a motion has been made.
Oh, my goodness. By Ms. Neff.
You mean seconded.
The second by Ms. Lindsay, and then you'll have to call for all in
When
favor.
do I get to hit it again?
Well, after you.
At the end.
Okay. All right, so we've had a motion to be made, it's been seconded.
And then
Now we
all
need
in
to-
favor?
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
So it has been,
Was that everybody? I didn't.
okay,
Okay. Okay.
passed?
Yes.
Okay.
You can
Very
gavel
good.
again if you'd like.
So you don't have to do anything else? huh?
telling you.
I can gavel? Thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't know what's going wrong here. Okay, so a recommendation. Okay, so we're now down to number G, right? Recommendation for agenda items for the next advisory board meeting.
Mr. Chairman, Brian Francis. So a few of the items that we'll include, obviously, will be the staff reports. We'll also provide an update on the implementation of the rules, an update on the commission's decision next week at their advisory board meeting. If there are any work group discussions in between, I don't believe we have any scheduled, but if there are, we'll provide updates for that as well. And you didn't ask me this, but agenda item H is the next date for the next meeting. If it is okay with the board, we'd like to have a meeting in September. That way, at least we've had a month or so of the activity in place. But we'll also have the final report from the Sunset Commission issued for the agency, which will provide some fodder for conversation as well.
Okay. I just personally ask that if the board date is set and it has to be changed, that we have ample time.
Yes, sir.
To make that, to make that change.
We'll make sure that we reach out to the board members to get an idea of what time period in September works best.
I would appreciate that so much. Thank you.
We will
Okay.
also try to factor in, I believe there's going to be a public hearing or decision meeting in September for the Sunset Commission. We may try to have those around the same time, so if any individual wants to go to that meeting as well as ours, we'll try to make sure that we make that easy for them.
Okay. Anything else? Okay.
Sam Webb, the one thing I was hoping to add is the work group, who's on the work group, because I was trying to get on the health and safety medical
I
work
have
group.
that right here, Sam.
I don't know if that happens here or has to be in September or not, just because I'm hoping that we have a work group meeting before that September meeting.
This is David Gonzalez with TDLR. Let me read off who's on the work group so you know where you're committed to, and if there's any changes, it can be an agenda item for the next meeting to assign them. So Education and Curriculum Work Group, we have Sam Webb, Mary Lindsay, Alicia Rivera, and Debbie Weiland. The Enforcement Work Group, Anthony Anderson, Alicia Rivera, Claudia Avalos, and Natalie Inderman. The Health and Safety Work Group, Ron Robinson, Shell Neff, Alicia Rivera, and Natalie Inderman. And the Licensing Work Group, Natalie Inderman, Shell Neff, Sam Webb, and Claudia Avalos. So if there's any reconsiderations or somebody's not going to be able to fulfill their commitment somehow, we can put it on as an agenda for the next meeting as well.
Okay. Well, I just ask that if whatever transpires on these committees, if I could just have kind of a little bit of an update as to what is going on these committees, it would help. I would feel more enlightened.
So Chairman Robinson, for all of these committees, obviously, y'all are participants and y'all can initiate. It is with staff help that we would conduct these meetings, whether it's general counsel, regulatory program management, education examination, depending on which group. You would make contact with them and they can facilitate. You guys are all volunteers, so we appreciate the work that y'all are doing. But if it needs to be conference calls, we can help coordinate those. If it's an in-person meeting, we can help coordinate those issues as well. It's just availability for the participants is really what drives this, and necessity of getting work done. So it's really up to you guys.
And David, if I can chime in, Mr. Chairman, also what I'm hearing is that when the meeting's completed, and if you're not on that work group, as the chair, you would like to know kind of where they're going before you discover here at a meeting. And we'll coordinate that as well. We'll get the information from those respective chairs and provide that in advance.
Thank you.
We'll make sure that we avoid a quorum. We don't want to have that side of it, but we'll make it work.
And this is Mary Lindsay, and I'd like to speak a little bit to for the schools that are here. I'm a little concerned that I still feel some wrath of what's happening on the change of the hours. And I still, as a school director myself, I leave here with still a big question mark. I think in reference, will more comments come out about how we're going to test, or how are they going to take care of their business now from here on out? Will the committee, we meet with the committee and decide just where do we go from here?
So, Ms. Lindsay, we have a bill implementation team, as Ms. Rebecca was referring to. My expectations of our staff is that you'll be getting further information. In January, we release some information to give some comfort level. I know as soon as we release some information, there's more questions that come along with that. I will commit to this. Our staff is here today, so anybody that showed up here today that still feels like they have questions, if we can get you an answer, just hang around here a little bit afterwards today, and we have staff available, especially for our Education Examination Division. I would also make sure you stay in tune with that online registration for listserver. That's how the easiest way we're going to get our message out and convey what our expectations are in the implementation. There are some things happening with the programming to get the implementation done, as well as these rules, which are kind of key to being a catalyst for the rest of this to go on. Now that we're moving forward with these rules, there's some more pieces that can fall into place pretty quickly.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. With that having been said, I guess that concludes our meeting, and I get to hit the gavel this time. Okay. Okay, well, it's concluded. Thank you.